Thanks, guys. Oh, I'm excited. Yeah, so loved Laura's talk. It was so fun. It was so good, and I'm just like was shaking my head the whole time. I'm like, yes, I love it. Which I think it's gonna play off of really well because like everything she was talking about is client experience, and I'm a huge like client experience guru. And so it just kind of ties into that. So it's like building that workflow and like getting all that stuff, and then it's like, okay, now what to like take that and like kind of move on to it here. So yeah, this talk we're going to be talking about just how to like book higher premium clients and what that looks like and all of that stuff. So like a couple things that like from what we're going to be talking about today that people say, like helping you like book your highest packages, raise your pricing, all of that good stuff. Obviously that's good. That's like wins my heart before anything is serving people, serving clients and all that stuff. So when you do that, these things kind of like come along with it. But yes, my name is Rachel Traxler. You can call me Rach. I always go by Rach. Yeah, I have over a decade of experience in the industry, which is crazy now. I've been able to kind of like take that, shift that, now teaching like thousands of other photographers through all of these things and kind of like I said, become like a client experience, like client connection type of like, that's kind of like my specialty, my secret sauce there. So couple things about like what we're going to cover today and like what we're going to go over. So we're going to cover the difference between low budget versus luxury photography, premium clients, what that looks like, my signature premium client pyramid, what that looks like, some lead generation strategies, some booking mistakes, and then turning current clients that you have into premium clients. So we got a lot to cover today. So we got to just kind of like dive right in. Yeah, to kind of set the stage too. So for kind of where we're going, I want to introduce you to, sorry, this doesn't reflect like mirroring on my computer. There it is. Where I kind of want to go. So you might recognize her. I'm going to like describe her name. Like she's a low budget photographer. So she's a really good photographer. Maybe she's been in the industry for a while. She's not seeing like the growth and success that she wants to, or like not having clear direction. Maybe she's not getting her ideal clients, like whatever that looks like. And she knows she's capable of it, but just not really knowing. And then so that what happens is maybe she's not getting consistent inquiries from that. Or if she is getting the inquiries, she's kind of struggling to convert them into like paid bookings and not getting like ghosted and all of that stuff. Or if she is leading, she ends up like lowering her prices just like to book the wedding, you know, just like make sure you book it and all that stuff. And which kind of like then leads her to feeling like she's like really stressed about like where that next inquiry is coming from. And then also like comparing like where she's at and like questioning like why she's not getting those inquiries, why she's not getting those leads, and then maybe like feeling underpaid for like all this work and effort she's putting into everything. So this is everything that I've kind of like created this like avatar of like this low budget photographer and like where we're at. I've been there, that's why I know this very well, and where all of this is. So then what she does want though, she wants consistent inquiries. She wants those like in her inbox all the time. She wants like a higher conversion rate too, so she's actually booking them, and she wants to book more premium clients. And these are all things that the premium photographer has. And so this is exactly what she has here. She's confident in her ability to like get consistent inquiries, to convert them to bookings, and to charge like premium prices of what she's really confident in. So today I'm going to like walk through ways to kind of help you shift if you feel like, oh, maybe I'm a little bit in like the low budget photographer world right now, shift you into how you can become that premium photographer. So we're going to talk about that. So you probably are wondering like, what the heck is like a premium client? Like, what does that mean? What do I mean by luxury? Because I think a lot of people, when you think of like premium client or a luxury wedding or high-end like wedding or a high-end photographer, me personally, I originally thought like fine art photographer and like shooting at like ballrooms or like celebrity, like all these things. And that's so not my style at all. And so, but I still feel like I'm booking like premium, higher end, like paying clients. And so what qualifies as one, like what does that look like? So in my like just own kind of like definition here, I just kind of like put together that like a premium client's kind of willing to invest in a higher budget to ensure like they really want a top tier customized photography experience. So that's what they really value. They have higher expectation of quality and style and service from their wedding photographer. So they just have like higher end like expectations of that way. They really want someone that has like a really strong reputation and experience in the industry too, and like has a personalized approach to like when it comes to photography and like what that looks like. Just because if it's, you know, if you're the same as everyone else or whatever, you're not going to differentiate yourself that way. So also then when it comes to like creating your own premium client, like I said, your premium client can look however you want it to. Like, I think there's this misconception, like I said, like a premium client is maybe someone who is getting married at like a really high-end venue or whatever that looks like. A lot of my weddings and my like favorite like couples and weddings are like small backyard weddings, and they're paying premium prices for them. So your premium client and premium wedding can look however you want it to. It's all in how you're messaging it, marketing it, branding it, and all of that stuff, which is kind of like what we'll go over. So now like onto premium pricing too, because you might just kind of like be wondering like, what does that look like? And honestly, I think it's kind of like the indicator between like the low budget photographer and the premium photographer is like the budget and all that stuff. So it's essentially like the idea behind like wanting to get to the point to be able to charge that. And so with like a low budget photographer, like when you're in that realm, say you're charging like $2,000 for a wedding and but like working backwards. So like say like your revenue goal is like $60,000. And if you're charging $2,000, you're going to have to book like minimum 30 weddings just to get like to hit your revenue goal. Obviously it's not including any expenses or anything like that. So then it kind of becomes more of a number game for you of I've got to book 30 weddings and I've got to get to this, versus like getting in the mindset of like serving your clients that way. Cause then you're like, oh, I just want to book 10 more weddings, and it kind of becomes like a number game that way. Versus like with premium, like if you're just able to apply like all these things we're going to go over today, you can shift into like more premium pricing. And then therefore like maybe you can charge $6,000 starting out for your wedding, and then boom, that cuts it in half of like you're only, you know, needing to book 15 weddings, and then you're going to be making even more money from that. So that's essentially like getting like tapping into that premium pricing, premium client, and all of that stuff. So kind of what goes into running a business of like premium clients and attracting those premium clients. This is where my premium client pyramid comes into play. So it's kind of, most people think that in terms of like to book premium clients and to market to them that you need social media. And we talked about this yesterday, social media, love it. Huge blessing in all of our businesses. Like social media is a really powerful thing, but I think a lot of people think that they kind of stop there and kind of like stay in this bottom tier and they don't apply all the other things. And therefore like everyone kind of starts to blend in and look the same and sound the same and do all these things because we're stuck in this bottom level thinking of just social media, when actually there's just so many more moving parts to creating like a premium client like brand and booking premium clients that way. And so I'm not going to touch too much on social media because we did talk about it a lot yesterday. And then the next is just creating a really luxury brand and how you're translating that through your copy. So like your branding in your copy. And this is kind of a big one too. So if you opened up like your website right now, a lot of people, I feel like your brand, your copy and like your wording might be about you. Like, oh, here's how long I've been doing photography, and here's how I got into photography, and here's my bucket list location of like where I want to shoot and all of these things. And it kind of becomes, you have to kind of meet in the middle of, it needs to kind of be about them, and not only tying it into you with like your connection points and your connection pieces to like tie those two together, but also like it also ultimately comes down to how you're serving them, because premium clients want to know like how you're serving them and how you're getting that experience from them. So switching that mindset from, all about you to like switching it to them. Or also to like, you need to make sure like your branding and your copy really matches and translates to the type of service you're providing. So if you say that you're, like a fun, like bubbly photographer and all this stuff, but then people go to your website or something and it's like all like black and white images or anything like that, like it's not going to translate, it's not going to make sense. But it's also like the copy in your messaging of how you're actually speaking to and speaking into premium luxury and how you're translating that. So some ways to kind of start with that in your branding, your copy, is having your brand voice, your brand promise, your brand message, and your elevator pitch. These are huge. I literally could talk on this little section alone for like hours, but these are types of things too. Like if you don't have these down, and if you can't say like what you know, what your brand promise is, what your elevator pitch, what all this is, you already just don't have a solid foundation. Like, and so you really like need to know these things, have them down, infuse them all throughout your brand, all throughout your copy, through your website, your social media, all of these things of like what differentiates you from that. But it also needs to speak in a premium, higher end like voice. So you need to kind of like match that too. And these are the things, this brand voice, brand promise, brand message, elevator pitch, these things are already like all inside of you. You just need to figure out what that is and pull it out and communicate it. So if you're thinking, oh, I don't have this, so I don't have a very good like solid foundation, it's in you. You just need to you need to figure that out. Because once you do figure that out, it's going to lead just be your marketing. You know, that's going to lead into your marketing. It's going to translate in your client experience, and client experience is your marketing. And so a piece of it, so it kind of like translates into that, and like will translate into booking too. And then there's the tone and style within your branding and copy. So really tailoring your message to your audience and elevating your brand through copy, because like I said, you need to know the verbiage that your premium client, your nice premium client is going to look a little different, but what your premium client, like that wording and that verbiage that they're saying, use that language and tie it in with your copy and within your tone and style too. I think that's really important. So this is something that's really important with all of this, but with your tone and style. That, because obviously as a photographer, like words are hard. Like we like to take photos, words are hard sometimes. But think about if someone were to come across just a social media post or your website or anything like that with no photos attached to it. Would they be able to read the copy that you're saying and be like, that's Rachel, that's so-and-so? Like, can they match your brand without any photos? Because we're so directly tied to photos. A lot of us, if you have a good style, you can see a picture and be like, oh yeah, that's so-and-so's work, and that's good. But can you do that with your copy? I think that's really, really important to kind of infuse your isms every once in a while. Like, just an example for me, with my brand, I like the sunshine emoji, or like at the end of my podcast, I say like keep shining and like hello sunshines, and it kind of like it makes sense. So I think without pictures, people can kind of like pick up on that, if that kind of makes sense. And then with your branding copy too, really highlighting your unique selling points. Like I said, everyone here in this room, we do the same thing. We photograph weddings. We all are doing the same things, but like, how are you making sure that your brand, like your copy and all that stuff, really highlights your unique selling points and like your unique approaches, your unique methods, what you do, because how you do things are different than I do things. So whether that's in your editing style, in your posing approach, in your communication style, in your workflow style, like what Laura was talking about, anything like that, highlighting on that, because we all do it super, super different. And then once you have that, like really focus on like the value and the benefits of your service and use that language to like really communicate luxury or premium to them. Something that people can only get from you, because like I said, we all do the same thing. So think what makes you different, of like, what is someone going to get from you that they cannot get from anyone else? And you really need to communicate that. And then also like keep in mind like the difference to like when you're speaking into like the difference between a low budget versus a premium client too, because how you're speaking to them matters. I think with like low budget clients, they tend to focus on maybe like the features, like how many hours am I getting, or like how many photos am I getting back, you know, or I'm awkward in front of the camera. They're focusing on what could go wrong, or like the features, the nitty gritty. I feel like, raise your hand if you've gotten clients that have been like picky on all of those things. Whereas like premium clients, they really just are focused on like the desired outcome. Like, how are you gonna make me feel? Like, what's this gonna look like at the end? And just the overall like emotion of it. So therefore they could care less if they're booking you for 6 hours or a full day. Like, what's the end result gonna look like? And so when you can speak to that, versus, so an example I guess would be on websites or something, when you're doing your facts section, that you're saying like, you're saying all of these things, like how many photos, are you gonna get raw photos back? How many hours of coverage? Like, you know, all those nitty gritty things, versus like, this is how I'm gonna make you feel. This is the experience I'm gonna give you. This is what you're gonna get from your photos. That's the difference when you're speaking to like a lower budget client versus a premium client. Yeah, so some examples, different ones, like a low budget might be thinking like affordable wedding photography for couples like on a budget. Like, we offer fun and relaxed sessions to capture your special moments without breaking the bank. Like, you're really leaning into like the pricing and like all this stuff versus like a high-end like luxury price like client. They're telling like your unique story in a sophisticated, timeless way. All of these things, providing like an experience, like giving them like the desired outcome, like kind of like what I was just talking. So that's a little bit more about like the branding and copy. And then the next point of the pyramid is the website and the portfolio. So obviously, like I touched base on this a little bit too, like it has to match with your branding, your copy, your online presence. Any disconnect that happens with any of this is what's hard, because this is why I like love client experience and that it acts as your marketing, because any disconnect with this is immediately going to break trust with people. They're going to be like, wait, that doesn't make sense. It's not going to translate, especially with premium clients. They want to know they can trust you. They want to know what they can get from you. So this cannot be broken at any point. So with your website and all this stuff, the first piece to like having a really luxury high-end it's like service, again, like I was saying, having a really unique selling proposition. Like, what are you doing that's very different? What sets you apart as a wedding photographer? Like I said, editing style, communication style, posing approach. What does that look like? Whatever it is, just make sure it's on your website. It's on your social media. You're highlighting that and you're really featuring it that way. Again, so I was saying like, what do you do? So it's more than just like, oh, you're an Iowa wedding photographer. Like, what type of photographer are you? Like, what types of couples are you serving? And like, how do you do it? How do you do it differently? Because we all here in this room do things very differently. And not even how you do it, but how are your services differently? Because I think a lot of us, we just think we need to have like how Laura was saying, everybody was doing full day coverage. Everyone just thought they had to do that. You don't have to do anything. So like, how are your services different? And then what's your unique method and approach? Like we were talking with your business, with all of that. And then like, why do they need it too? Speak into the importance of what they're going to get from it. Why is it really important to them to have this? It's not just wedding photos. What are you going to get from this, from my experience on the wedding day and like just forever afterwards too? These might seem really like simple questions, but if you don't have them written down, if you don't know them off the top of your head, chances are you don't have them in your website, you don't have them in your copy, you're not marketing them. And so once you do, that's going to also shift too. And then how do they feel being on your social media, on your website, around you? Like people, like they're not just booking photography, they're booking a photographer, but like it's also not about us, it's about them. So how are we making them feel during this process too? And then next is having a really luxury portfolio too, because they need a reason to book with you, right? Because if you're just cheaper, like I said, we all do photography here. We all do wedding photography. You can compare two people right here. And if they're the same and they're not standing out and they're not doing their different things, people are just going to go with the cheaper option. They're just going to look at the prices and they're just going to go with the cheaper option. So you need to have all of these things to match, but really like a luxury portfolio too. And so making sure that your portfolio like really speaks into premium and like what does that mean? Whatever that means for you, your portfolio just needs to match it. So that means like paying attention to detail, like composition and framing of your photos and like your photo choices too, because I'll do like website audits for people too. And they're like, oh, I'm, this type of photographer and I'm a wedding photographer and all of this. And then I go and their photo choices are of like just the bride alone or something. And it's like people, especially like premium clients, they want to envision themselves in that. So having pictures of like the actual, like the couple, but then also really aligned with like premium too. So not having photos that would speak into like not your premium client. Again, premium client can look whatever it looks like. And so I think that's just like visually appealing to have like that balance too. So they have that like strong emotional connection to it too. And the next is having like storytelling. So making sure you're storytelling, because people want, again, they're not just booking photography. They want to know like that emotional connection of it and like what that story is. So the more you can communicate and like connect that, the more they're going to feel. And then making sure like your website too is kind of like up. I hate the word like trendy, but kind of like making sure that you're up in like on like what's going on and like things are up to date on. It's not portfolio from like ever ago. They want it, and like premium clients too, like they want to be in on like the next new thing too. I know that's like not the best thing that we want to hear because we got to be on top of it, but they want to be in on that too. So like making sure that reflects all of that. And I think the biggest difference thing here too, like I was saying, with premium clients, like they buy from a place of emotional connection, not from like where low budget like clients might buy from a place of pain points and pricing and all that stuff, where that's why I love client experience so much, and it's been like the biggest game changer for me in my business, is because premium clients do buy from a place of connection and emotion and all that. So because like successful marketing and client experience, those two things are going to increase like the value of the overall service that you're providing. So when you think about this in your business, you want to increase the value, not the volume, because we're always like, how can we book more weddings? How can I get more ideal clients? How can I do all of these things? Instead, shift your focus into how can I increase the value, not the volume. And then the more you can kind of lean into this, the more easy it'll be to like create that luxury, more premium brand that way. And then lastly is social proof, which just like really helps with brand reputation and just like brand authority and all that stuff. So making sure that you're guiding your couples into crafting really powerful testimonials, just because like, let's be real, people don't really know how to like give a powerful testimonial. So kind of like Laura was saying too, like really guiding them into it too. And when you're thinking about it, like good testimonials are like really clear and specific. They have an emotional impact. They have like credibility in there. They're outcome focused, because remember, like I said, outcome focused and transformational, because that's what more premium clients are thinking, and that's where their headspace is at. So versus on like the nitty gritty things. So an example of this would be like an example of like a normal testimonial or like a lower budget testimony would be like, Rachel was amazing to work with. She made our day so great, and we would recommend her to anyone. Like, I feel like we all have those testimonials. That's a very basic standard testimony that I'd be like, oh, that's awesome. Like, that's really nice. And I see that on a lot of people's, and mine included. That's just what a lot of people would say. Versus helping like guide them into creating like a really powerful testimonial. So like a powerful testimonial would be like, booking our photography experience with Rachel was the easiest decision of the process of our entire wedding. So it's speaking into like what that specific process looked like. And like the second we booked, we were welcomed with the direction on how to make the experience seamless. Again, like that, how, like what that specific part of the process is, which made us feel so taken care of, considering how much planning goes into weddings. So it's that emotional side too. They want to feel like that emotional connection. Because we knew she had 10 years of experience, we felt like it was a thing off our plate we knew we could trust in. Again, that's that credibility. And then not only was the communication so clear, but she was the most helpful aspect of our wedding day, like putting ease on them. She took us from feeling scattered to feeling confident. That's that transformational piece. So we can enjoy every second of our day and feel beautiful doing it. That's that outcome. So you see how like just the difference between those two, it's just so much more powerful speaking into a lower budget client versus like a more premium client. So making sure you have really powerful testimonials. I love sending like a testimonial in my delivery guide, like my offboarding process of like how they can do that and like maybe what questions to kind of cover. Also, don't be scared to ask for testimonials at different parts of your process. I think everybody asks for testimonials at the very end of their process. Ask for one after the onboarding process. If you feel like, yeah, I really crushed that onboarding like process with them. I've even got compliments of like, people being like, that was actually just so easy. Ask for a testimonial when they give you a compliment about that specific part of your process. Then you can plug those types of testimonials into your workflow, into your guides, into your website, your copy, into your marketing that way. So because that's that first like little hump that people want to get over. Like they just have to book you, and then they're in your world, and then you can, like Laura had the workflow, then you know you've got that. But if you can just get them over that little hump, so focusing and highlighting on that and what that process looked like for prior clients is really powerful. And then last but not least in the client pyramid is the client connection, just because I love client connection. This is how you're kind of like packaging everything you do into a little bow, and like how you're actually delivering that like in-person real-time experience for people, and like kind of what that looks like and how that's like connecting the two, because that's going to be really powerful. And a really good way to do that too is through vendor connections. I think it just doesn't stop at like client connection. You can tie that into vendor connections too. So vendor connections has been like my biggest lead generation actually for a while. There's other ones that are creeping up, but vendor connections have been my biggest lead generation, that I don't feel like I need to be like yesterday I was saying, I don't have to be as present on social media, because I know inquiries are coming in from vendors and from other places that if I take a little break off social media, like I feel like that's fine. So that's just tying into the next thing, to the next part. So that was like the premium client pyramid. Next is like lead generation strategies that don't require your everyday attention, because I think it's really important, because I would say the ones that do require your everyday attention are like social media and stuff. And so you want to have lead generation strategies that do not require your everyday attention, and that are really aligned with premium clients too. So I feel like we've all kind of been on this inquiry like roller coaster, and so it's like you're riding high, you're getting like tons of inquiries, you feel really good, and then all of a sudden maybe like you take a break or something like that, and then so like you're really riding on high with how businesses are going. Then all of a sudden you're like, I'm not getting any inquiries, what's happening? And then it kind of like leads your marketing in a like scarcity mindset of like scattered, like, okay, I gotta like do something to get inquiries and like something to get leads in, and then they start coming, and then you feel really good again. So it's like, it's just kind of like on this inquiry roller coaster, and so that's just, I think, like inevitable. And like what happens with these fluctuations is it's just like I was saying, it causes you to run your business from a place of like scarcity, and just kind of like that roller coaster effect. And I want to help you kind of like run with all of these things, more of like an inquiry reel or like inquiry wheel. So it's just more consistent and you're getting those in, and just kind of like flatten that roller coaster out a little bit. So the first one is vendor connection. So like I said, think about how many vendors we work with like every single weekend. Like we work with tons of vendors. And like, how are you leveraging that into your lead generation strategy? I think a lot of people want to like connect with vendors like on the wedding day, but think about on an event, like on a wedding day, things are really scattered and like, you know, they're busy and hectic, and that's probably might bring out, you know, traits in people that like, you know, their mind's not there. So if you're like waiting to just network with like vendors on a wedding day, that's not the place that you should be doing it. But some vendors that you could be connecting with are like wedding planners. So especially if you're wanting to book more premium clients, like my like 5-figure wedding packages have come from wedding planners, because people are going to wedding planners first. And if you can have really good connections with them, like they are like typically like classically a little bit more of a premium, like when I say premium, I guess higher paying clients. Like a premium client can be not a high paying too. And so wedding planners are really, really crucial with like getting connected with, and that's been really big for me. Jewelers is just kind of a fun one. Like it's not like huge, but you know, if people are going to like get proposed, you know, doing like surprise proposals, like turning into like your wedding photographer, like doing those and like doing sessions, because like guys I feel like go to the jewelers and they have no idea what they're doing, and so if you can get connected with them, they'll be like, oh yeah, I'll do photography too, and like getting connected that way. So that could be powerful too. I would say that's probably, the jewelers is probably like the least powerful of all these, but then like venues too, which is really powerful, because people like couples are touring venues every week, multiple days a week, and so you never know when those leads are going to be coming in. So you could be on vacation for a week and 5 couples could be touring a venue that you're a preferred venue on, and you come highly recommended, and boom, you get 5 inquiries on, like you don't have any real-time attention that way. So like becoming like a preferred vendor on someone's list. And again, this is like a personal fave of mine, is doing like venue referrals. And I know it's kind of hard too, because it's like if you've shot there, obviously a bonus if you've shot at a venue, but if you haven't shot there, I think there's ways, again, it kind of goes back to like the messaging and like how you're positioning it. You can position it in a way of like, oh, I actually haven't shot there, but I actually do my most creative work and I do my best work when I shoot at new places. And so you can position it that way, or you can position it as like, yeah, I shoot there all the time and I know it's in and out and I know every aspect of it. So both of those have like pros. So again, it's just how you're positioning it and like messaging that and marketing it that way. But some ways too to like get on venues and like get connected with venues too is like pick 3 to 5 venues that you really, really want to shoot at, that you really want to get connected to. Again, bonus points if you've shot there, but if you haven't shot there, there's ways around that too to kind of get connected with that. But like first and foremost, you want to like connect and build a relationship, obviously. Think of like how it's going to benefit, like be mutually beneficial, like how you can serve them, how you can serve like the venue too. So I like to say, coming to the venue of like, here's in a way that I can serve your couples in a way that no other people are doing on your preferred vendor list. This is what I can bring for your couple. So you're bringing value to not only them as a venue, but to their couples too, because I'm assuming they also want to serve their couples. And you can also like get connected to them by like offering their services. You could offer to like do the team, like the vendors, the venues teams, like headshots, or say like, I can come and like do some behind the scenes like video clips or something of like your venue to like put together a few like video clips and like video marketing reels for you or something like that. So like offer your services, because I think as a photographer, we have such a leg up. Everybody wants content. And so I think that's something you can do for venues to get connected to. And then like once you really build that connection, you can send like an email like saying that you want to be on their preferred vendor list, because everyone's got a different process for what that looks like, and doing that. So I kind of have like an email, that like base email template that I like to like go off of, and then from there, then you're gonna hopefully get on their preferred vendor list. And this comes with time, building that partnership, building that communication, that connection, and all of that stuff too. And then a very really other, like an untapped lead generation, in my opinion, is like a photography referral kickback. So like getting partnered with other photographers. If like a lot of you guys are Iowa photographers, I feel like that's really good here to like network with other people in your industry. But it's really good for if you're wanting to travel, like if you're wanting to go anywhere else, that you can get connected with other photographers. And what that would look like is maybe pick, again, like 3 to 5 photographers that you want to share work with, asking if they'd be interested in doing like a referral swap and all that stuff, and getting that way. And then maybe offering a 5% referral kickback. So then if they refer a couple to you and then they book with you, that you're giving them 5% back of like what was booked or something like that. But obviously you really want to make sure you're doing this with photographers you're really aligned with, that like your clients could equally be served that way, and it's like mutually beneficial that way. Just because like, obviously, even like here, like all of these people, like I said, if you're Iowa photographers, like the referral like network system you have, like you can get like so like much consistent with your lead generation with just like doing those things alone and this. And it can just help like be mutually beneficial too, like with connections and stuff. But okay, moving on then from lead generation strategy to like to booking premium clients too, like 3 booking mistakes that I see that I've made myself. This is why I know them as well. Is that mistake number 1, you're not communicating your unique approach and methods. So like I said, I've been drilling this home. We all do the same things. How are you doing it differently? So if you're not communicating that in your market, like this is what helps you stand out. This is what helps communicate a luxury brand for you and like what your brand looks like. It's what makes clients decide, like, we have to book with her. Like, I don't care, we have to go with this person. And so if you're not communicating that specific approach and your unique methods, that's just a booking mistake. That's a marketing mistake. That's a client experience mistake. You're not serving all of those things. Mistake number 2, I see, is that you're marketing maybe in the wrong places. So maybe right now you are feeling like you're like fully reliant on social media, or you're like reliant on these one things, but you also have to think, where is your premium client at? Because your premium client might not be on Instagram. She might not be on TikTok. Like, where are they? She might be someone who works with planners, or maybe she is someone who is on TikTok. Like, we all have different things, especially I think TikTok for the younger generation too, is like more of a thing. And so you just have to think where they're coming from, because I feel like I've heard this from people saying, well, I'm doing this and I'm doing this. And then we talk about what that looks like for you, and you're marketing in the wrong place. And so that could be an easy switch there. Mistake number 3 is that you're not customizing everything correctly. So think about like getting that initial inquiry form. Like, I love this whole topic. I don't even really go to because I really like it. But you might be thinking you're customizing your response back, because when you get that initial inquiry form, everyone's like, well, yeah, I'm customizing it. I have base templates. And I'm like, oh, I love your venue. I've always wanted to shoot there, like I have shot there, like all these things. And I think the mistake is that you think you're customizing by like relating it to yourself, by making it about yourself, versus leaning into aspects of maybe like how they perceive love, how they view communication, what they're looking for, and like kind of making it about them. So if you're not doing that, you're kind of missing that second piece of the puzzle. So there's kind of like 2 connection pieces if you think about it. So we are very much so visual. So people come to us, if they're filling out your contact form, it's because they connected with that first piece. There's 2 pieces, the visual aspect, where they're like, we like your work. We connected with your work visually. But if you think about it, I like to relate to like picking out a birthday card, because think about like when you're picking out like a birthday card for someone, like there's so many options, you guys, and relates to photography too, because there's so many of us, but you're like looking and you're scanning for a card, and like, what do? You pick out the one that's most visually appealing to you. So then you go and you pick up that card and you read it, and then you read what the inside says. And if you don't connect with what that card says, what are you going to do? You're going to shut it and you're going to put it back, and you don't want it. So if you're not connecting with them in that second piece of the aspect of like connecting after they have visually connected with you, you're going to miss out on that second piece. So that's why I think that's really important to do that way. So even if they love your work, if you don't customize that connection to them, they're just going to move on to the next photographer. So making sure that you are doing that. So instead of like not connecting, do these things instead to connect. So I like to like base off of this is Tony Robbins thing of like the 6 basic human needs, right? And I think you can apply it to the way you're customizing a response to somebody. You can really pick up on like what their basic human needs are, if they value certainty, if they value variety, if they value significance, love and connection, growth, or contribution. So like an example of someone who would value certainty is someone who like comes to you with an inquiry form that's like, this is where we're getting married, this is the date, this is our budget, what's your prices? You know what I mean? They want the facts. They want to know those things. And instead of just disregarding that and being like, they're not my ideal client, you know, like they're out of budget, or they just want to know if they're price shoppers, all that stuff. You have to flip your mindset. We're service-based providers here, you guys. We have to flip our mindset and say like, they're not my ideal client, but this person might value certainty. So therefore, I know that when I send a response back, I probably should send my pricing right away. I don't have my pricing on my website personally. And so I know that by getting this response, or this inquiry, I can be like, okay, there's someone who needs my pricing right away. And so I'm gonna send that to them. If there's someone then who goes into like your contact form that they fill out and they like tell you their whole life story, how they met, like their proposal, like all of those things, they're really excited to like just dance and have fun at their wedding with their like closest family and friends and all that stuff. You could probably assume that they value love and connection, and therefore you're going to speak into that in your initial like response back to them of why this is connected, how we can incorporate that, like why that's important, like all those things, and really tie into that and pour back into them, because that's what they want. Whereas someone who's like valuing, like wants certainty, they might not want all like the gushy, you know, all that gushy stuff, but someone who wants love and connection very much so does. Another example for like significance, they might be someone who has a wedding planner, has like the details are what's important, you know, and you say like, what's most important to you on your day. Someone who does love and connection would talk about family. Someone who values significance might talk about the details and the colors and like what that looks like. And then therefore you can maybe assume that they value significance. Therefore your response back to them can be like, here's where I've been featured. Here's some blog posts of what your wedding day is going to look like featured on my website. They want to know like how they can be like featured and stuff like that too, and like what that's going to look like for them. So knowing these things, that's what I kind of mean by like customizing. Another thing too is you can pick up on if they're left brain or right brain thinkers. Like I was saying, sometimes people, they come to you with their form, they're like, price, here's my date, what's your prices, ABC, 1, 2, 3. I don't know why as an industry we just think and assume that off the bat that they're not our ideal clients and they're not us, and because they're not going to pay the value of what we have. I think that's on us and our job to just know there may be left brain thinkers, there may be more analytical thinking. Therefore, it's my job to take them from left brain thinking, shift them over to right brain thinking, and just knowing this is going to know how much belief shifting I have to do with them in the phone call and in my responses to them, in my communication, in my customized response. Does not mean that they're not my ideal clients. I have had my favorite clients, and they came to me and they were very much so left brain thinkers. They came to me with a low budget for an elopement in a national park, and I just very undoable. I did not write this off. I went through my whole process, my whole inquiry process of doing these things. And he was very analytical thing because he was the guy that was doing stuff. So immediately you can think that. But they ended up booking me for my highest elopement package I've ever booked. And doing that just by doing this belief shifting and getting them over to the right brain thinking. Because as photographers, we are more right brain, we are more emotional and connective thinking. So you have to think about that too. And there are behavioral differences too between the low budget buyers and like high budget buyers too. And I kind of like spoke on that a little bit, but there's like, I kind of created like 3 types of buyers that I've seen, like a trend of kind of just like what I've seen, 3 different types. So number 1, there's the dreamer. She's like, they're very emotionally driven, and is either like always had their heart set on you, you know, like there's someone like, I've been following you for years. You've always been good. Like you've always or have been going to be my photographer. They're very already emotionally connected to you. They've been emotionally connected to you for a while. I actually have a wedding inquiry that I just got yesterday from a dreamer. And I knew I grew up dancing with her. We danced together our whole life. And so I know her. So that's really cool. But I know that she's going to be a premium client. She even said, she's like, we're moving to Amsterdam. Like, so we want to do it in fall of 2023, but if you can't, we'll do it when you're available in 2024. So she's very much so like, we will plan our wedding around your availability. We're going to pay whatever you're going to charge. Like, this is that dreamer. And I actually like coincidentally have one in my inbox right now I need to respond to today. So this is someone who's had their eye set on you. The second type is the realist. This is someone who's really informational driven. Again, they want to know your prices. They want to know the hours of coverage. They want to know these things. They want to know the details. They're really like, they want to know those exact outcomes and all that stuff. Again, this isn't a bad thing. You just need to know to pick up on this, on what type of buyer they are, so you know how you can shift them over. The third one is the connector. This is someone who's really like emotionally like connection driven. So this is someone who, yes, they visually connected with you. They connected with what you said. You got them on the phone. After you went through your process, you kind of like, you made that connection and then you connected with them. So they weren't someone who's like always known that they were wanting to book you, but after going through the process that you should have here, you're going to connect with them. So those are like the 3 different buyer types that I've kind of figured you can pick up on and then therefore know how to like customize that to them. So like I said, try to pick up on these things. The more you can pick up on these things, if they're left brain thinkers, what their basic human need are, you're going to be able to convert them into like inquiries again, like to booked clients. So again, like premium clients, they tend to focus on the outcomes, the emotional side, and then low budget buyers fixate on like the concerns and the small details. And so knowing how you can shift that in your copy. So again, like low budget clients, some examples would maybe be like in your copy, you might be saying like helping you not be awkward in front of the camera, or like, you know, giving you like the best deal, or like all of these things. You're talking about like pricing and like budget stuff or all of that stuff, versus like premium clients is talking about like helping you feel beautiful on your wedding day, like so you can not be stressed and like so you can have these like photos and all that stuff, and how I'm making you feel during like in the process, on the day, and like forever after too. So shifting that mindset too. And then some differences here with like quality expectations is like a low budget buyer too, like is going to sacrifice quality for a cheaper price. And they tend to be picky about those small details. Like I said, I feel like we've all had couples and brides like nitpick on the small things. Whereas if you're communicating like this luxury brand and like premium client, this high budget buyer, they're going to prioritize the experience over the price and all that stuff. They're going to prioritize the overall outcome versus those small details. And they're going to prioritize that emotional transformation that they get from working with you, not just like those small nitpicky things. And then the same goes with pricing. A low budget buyer, they're looking for a cheaper price. They're coming to that, where as a high budget like buyer, they're looking for that desired outcome, and they're going to pay based off of connection, based off of that connection that you're making. And then a lot of it's like brand loyalty too. So a low budget buyer like doesn't feel connected with the brand and like your brand, and they're like purchasing from a place just like picking lower options. So a lot of us might like operate in that. We might just be like blending in, and so to someone else it's just like, oh, it's just like another photographer, which one has the cheapest prices. Whereas like a high budget buyer, like they feel really deeply connected to your brand and they're loyal to you, and therefore they are going to like, they're going to pay what you like, whatever you charge, and all that stuff. Very similar to, like I said, that dreamer bride that I have in my inbox right now. It's that brand loyalty that you've been able to build up. And like value perception too. So like a low budget buyer doesn't really perceive like your brand at luxury value, where a high budget buyer like really perceives your brand with luxury value. Therefore, like they really trust in you. They just completely trust in you in the process, the experience you're giving to them, the desired outcome, and all of that stuff. And if you're thinking too, like I have clients or like I don't have that experience and all that stuff, like how do I turn my current clients that I have into premium clients? And there's a few ways you can do that too, from just like the clients that you have booked right now. And it's just like having that client conversion blueprint of all these things. So making sure you're educating, you're prepping, you're nurturing your clients. And this is through pre-booking. This is during I like to break my workflow up into 4 phases. So it's during the inquiry phase, it's during the onboarding phase, it's during the nurturing phase, it's during the delivery phase. You're doing all of these things and you're really educating and prepping them into the mindset of a premium client. You can also have like upsell offers too. So like, maybe you can bring, like instead of like seeking out new clients all the time, like I said, increase the value, not the volume. And so maybe that's adding like upsell offers like albums and prints, and any like tangible offer that way. And the next is add-on services. So I like to do this in the nurture phase of my workflow, is doing like add-on services. Doing both of these things, like the upsell offers and the add-on services during the nurture phase of my workflow of maybe like add-on services of like doing a boudoir session, or maybe like doing a day after session, or like people really love to like go into their honeymoon stuff. So maybe like, what does it look like for me to like come on, like just to like show up on your honeymoon and do like a honeymoon session, like all these things, really expanding their minds on like add-on services. And then like we want like lifetime clients too. So like, how are you doing this, like get a returning client discount? And like, that's really in the offboarding delivery phase of my workflow too. Is like going through like what that looks like for all of that stuff. And so like, yeah, this is just like going through all of these things, like a couple of my students too, like Lacey, she didn't know how to market. She didn't know, she was basing her prices off what everyone else was around her. Like obviously didn't have a clear brand. Those are things that I feel like happen for everybody. And now like just by doing these things, getting more like consistent inquiries, booking highest weddings, like 4Xing her pricing just by doing all of these things, and like getting on preferred vendor lists at very high, and she's a Utah photographer, so like very high end like weddings too, or like wedding venues and all that stuff too. So again, just kind of like recap with all this, like the biggest difference, like low budget photographer, premium photographer. So a low budget photographer like really misses out on like working with dream clients, booking more weddings just to have more money, like kind of getting stuck in overwhelm, not really having that clear roadmap, switching and doing all of these things into like becoming like a go-to photographer, getting those consistent inquiries, not feeling like you have to be reliant on social media. You're the top of your like all the referral lists because you've positioned yourself differently than everybody else in the services, and then you can like work half of those numbers too. So yeah, like a few of like my students, just by going all of these through these things too, like booking their highest packages at their like highest at like very high end venues, like getting solid working flows, like getting at like favorite venues, all this stuff. She just actually recently featured in Vogue, so that's really exciting. Getting really consistent inquiries, like solidly running in. Again, like just booking your highest packages, positioning yourself as a really, really premium client, I think in all of these things, with all of those things. So to recap, like kind of what we went over with the difference between low budget versus premium photography, premium client pyramid, all of those things and how you can apply it. Lead generation strategies, booking mistakes, turning your clients into premium clients, and kind of what that looks like. So this is where you can find me here, but I do have like, I created like a course for you guys, like a little mini course, and it goes over some of these things that we talked about like in depth. It's like a 5-module little course for you guys, so you can get it at this. It's just my website, racheltraxler.com/book your highest wedding dash course, like with dashes in between. And yeah, it's a little, I should have done like a QR code for it so you guys could have just like screenshot it. But yeah, so it's just a little course there. But that's kind of everything that I have for you guys. So any questions?